Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, which is Find My Adventure, Building a National Tracks and Trails Database Through Collaboration, presented by Julian Hitchman. I trust many of you will know who I am by now. I'm Ted Taylor from Eagle Technology, and I'll be your host for today. And I'm joined online by Doug Stark from Eagle Technology and Matt Gross from the New Zealand Esri Users Group. Thanks for joining us for the third session of our user presentations, following on from the earlier presentation this week. Hopefully you're able to join us for that. So for those of you who are new attendees today, I'll just go over a few items so you're familiar with how to take part and get the most out of today's webinar. So as an audience member, you'll be muted during the webinar, but you'll be able to ask questions by typing into the discussion panel as shown here. You can send your questions in at any time during the presentation, and we'll collate these and address them during the Q&A session at the end. We'll try to get through as many questions as possible within the time, but as always, if we don't get to your question, we'll pass them on to the presenters at the end and they can get in touch. And if you think of any questions afterwards, you can get in touch with us at gis@training@eagle.co.nz, or you can get in touch with the presenters directly. Today's webinar won't run for any more than an hour. We've only got one presentation. And if you need to jump off at any point, that's totally fine. This video will be recorded and you'll receive a follow-up email with the link to access the recording afterwards. And likewise, if you know of any colleagues who can't make it today, they can jump online and find these recordings as well. So I'd now like to introduce Julian Hitchman from the New Zealand Walking Access Commission, and he's streaming live from the beautiful suburb of Hataita in Wellington. Julian, good morning, and I'm going to hand over to you.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for that, Ted. Just give me a second whilst I get my screen shared. Okay. Not sure if you're meant to see that. Is that all good, Ted? Is that looking okay? Oh.
Yep, looks all good for me, Jules.
Cool. Okay, cool. So yeah, kia ora, everyone. My name is Julian from the Walking Access Commission, Arahikoi Aotearoa. Thanks for that introduction, Ted, and thanks to Eagle and Doug and Matt for being here and organising all of this. It's really awesome to have something like this happening in a time that's pretty weird, I think, for everyone. So nice to have some normality. Yeah, so today I'm going to be talking to you a bit about Find My Adventure, which is a recent project that the Walking Access undertook in the last sort of year or so. And it's a joint project between our GIS team and our comms team. So yeah, I'll kick it off, eh? So for those people who aren't too familiar with the Walking Access, I'll just quickly give you a bit of background. So we're a government agency based in Wellington, a small Crown entity dealing with public access. That's our primary thing. And I've shown this picture to make it seem like we're a big, massive organisation. But as you can see, we're just here with a few doc and lens surveyors, and we're there in the black shirts. So we're a pretty tiny organisation. We've got around 14 office staff in Wellington, and then we've got about 12 regional staff as well. And we deal with all things access. And the walking part of our name is somewhat of a misnomer now, as we deal with vehicle access, cycling, walking, hiking, mountain biking, really anything relating to the outdoors in New Zealand. A lot of people know us for our work with maintaining and negotiating on behalf of other people access. A lot of work we do is with the Overseas Investment Office, helping to negotiate new public access when land is changing ownership. So trying to get access to public access to lakes, rivers, or to the beach through property that will be changing hands. And that's all at the benefit, hopefully, of the locals in that area. Another big part of what we do is mapping public access. So we have an online mapping system, which was previously called WAMS, or Walking Access Mapping System, now called OurMaps. And that's a facility that's free for anyone to use, and that shows across the country all public access areas that's our main data set, but then we also show a bunch of other information like tracks and trails, property, cadastral information, and hunting and fishing locations as well. And for myself, I'm a GIS analyst, and I've been working at the Walking Access for about 3 years. And our team is a team of 3. We have Sarah Cruikshank, who's our head honcho, our GIS manager, and Danica Torres, who's also another GIS analyst working with me. And this is our bread and butter. Our web mapping stuff is the main part of what we do, but we also do other projects in the background, working with internal staff and our regional staff. And also a big part of what we do is trying to facilitate new public access, working with local groups, councils or local trails groups, community groups who have big dreams of getting tracks in the area up and running. So we provide lots of grants throughout the year, thousands of dollars really going into this stuff and helping people getting those projects off the ground. A good example of this is the Paikakiriki Escarpment track, which I'm sure some of you will have done at some point. And yeah, it's just a really beautiful example, I think, of getting involved and helping what the Walking Access has helped with in the recent past. That's been a real success, I think. So that was through the Te Aroha Trail Trust, making this beautiful walkway. And this Paikakiriki Escarpment is actually going to feature quite heavily in this talk. But yeah, I think it's a great example of the stuff that we've done. And finally, a big part of what we do is promoting outdoor recreation and trying to be a leader and helping people sort of know how to behave in the outdoors. We've got an outdoor access code. We have a lot of educational resources on our website for that kind of stuff. And we also try and promote people to get outdoors and do new things and you know, experience this beautiful country we have. So that kind of leads nicely into this project, Find My Adventure. So I'll take it back a little bit. About a year and a half ago, our comms team, and in particular Asher Wilson-Goldman, he's the comms manager at Walking Access. He came to us and he had a bit of a thought around what we were currently doing, and that was that our facilities for showing tracks and making it easy for people to find a track to walk in their area were not so great. We had a great mapping system, but in terms of its ease of use, it's more geared towards it's for everyone, but it's definitely GIS heavy. There's a lot of information, and we didn't just have like a simple way for people to check out tracks. Now, it's worth noting that there are many other great resources for doing this, and you know, Doc Web Tracks being a great one on the Doc website, fantastic track searching tool. But there are many other tracks across the country that aren't on Doc land, and you know, there are others as well, like Free Walks NZ and also NZ Tramper, which are great, you know, more grassroots type resources for stuff like this. But they are relegated usually to particular types of recreation, usually, or they're just like not super detailed in the information that they have. Another thing that we were considering when we were looking at this is that just overall, there's just no real single resource for tracks and trails across the country where you can find any track, no matter who maintains it or runs it. And we felt that there was really something missing there. And actually that was an opportunity for us to kind of try and provide that and kind of fill that gap. And so that's what we set out doing, essentially. The comms team and as a whole had already planned that they were going to do a website upgrade. And we felt that this was the perfect time to also add this to the project and make something new. So we wanted to make a map-driven web search tool and something that catered to all different types of abilities and access types, so, or recreation types, so whether it's mountain biking, walking, whatever, and you know, dog walking, and even areas that have wheelchair and pram access as well. But we wanted this to be really detailed and really full of information. We didn't just want lines on maps. We knew that it had to be, you know, a search engine first and a map second kind of thing. And just to boot, we figured, well, the comms team really wanted to have that community functionality, the ability for people to add reviews and images and stuff as well. So I think we had our work cut out for us, but yeah, we took on the challenge. So around mid 2018 is when we started like getting into this project. We went out to Soma Design Studios, who are an excellent studio who had already worked on Greater Wellington Regional Council's website, and they'd done the MetLink app as well. And so the comms team enlisted them as the developer for this project, and they were going to test and create the new website and the new track tool. They were also going to handle the UI and that filtering into the Silverstripe CMS. On our side, we were going to handle, I was the GIS lead technical person on this project, basically. So I was going to handle the database construction, gathering the data, and all the testing involved. And then the comms team would be handling for all the information that went on, all the attribute information, such as your descriptions, how to get to tracks, all that really important information that goes on every single track detail page, as well as images and other bits and pieces. So one of the first things that I considered when looking at this project is, well, what's already out there? And I've been working a little bit with tracks in the past through our mapping system. So I was aware of a few of the existing data sets out there, and I thought that that might be a good place to start. And specifically the NZ walking and cycling, or walking and biking tracks data set, which is an excellent LGGA data set created a few years back. But while it's a great spatial resource, it's unfortunately in many ways not fit for purpose for this project. Lots of attribute information was missing. And I realized that it's really just a data dump of all of the organizations involved into that one location. And it's also hasn't been updated since 2016. So we knew that that would have been an excellent resource had we been there at the right time with this project. But unfortunately, because it was after that, we knew that we were kind of essentially starting from scratch. So we decided that it would be somewhat of the basis, but it wasn't going to be, we were going to have to individually source the data from different organizations. So the initial database was modeled from the Te Araroa Trail fields on their website, and also using some of the .webtrack fields as well, with a bit of help from those guys. We were going to use the database as the main spatial source that would feed the WebTrack tool. Each of those tracks would have a global ID that would relate to the system, and it would all be stored in the geodatabase. So this is just a quick view. God, story maps are nice, aren't they? So you can see here, this is currently what our service looks like now. This is the service that feeds the system. And as you can see, there are a fair variety of tracks, but most of them are just in a few of the centres. Christchurch, Wellington, Taranaki, a little bit in Auckland. So we've got a lot on there, but we're still missing a ton as well. And I'll talk a bit more about that. But when we first started, we had a lot less than this. And I just want to show you some of the fields that we were working with. So initially, we were using this as a way to view the spatial data. And you can see all the attribute information that we had there as well: regions, difficulty, status, subregions. But when we started, we didn't even have all of this. We had just these ones here. So we're actually, this is where we're at now, but we had actually a while to get to this point. I'll talk more about that. And one thing some of you might be a bit curious about is why Mapbox. So the dev team at SOMAR had already been very experienced with Mapbox. They'd already used it on previous projects, and they were the ones that were building the website. So they already knew that it also played really nicely with Silverstripe, and that it could accept our REST services from ArcGIS with an API. So we knew that it was going to work, and so we went with their knowledge on that. So we ended up launching around, I think it was around late 2018, a brand new spanking sexy looking website with a cool new track search tool in the front of it. We launched with a pretty meager 150 odd tracks. That was made up of the cycle trail, Te Araroa Trail, our walkways, and a few dot tracks as well. And yeah, overall it was a pretty good success. We did a bit of promotion for it, and we were really happy. But then the next big challenge was going out and actually getting that data from people individually. We knew that a lot of people had track information. Councils, both district and regional, some of them have really good data, and we wanted to get people involved. So our comms team went out all over the country, talking to different councils, emailing and getting in contact and seeing who was interested. And we got a lot of interest back. But unfortunately, not everyone is at the same point. Some people had the data ready to go. Big councils like Auckland Council had all the data ready to roll. And then other councils or smaller groups who didn't have as much resourcing, maybe they didn't even have a GIS, or they didn't have the technical knowledge there, and they were actually realizing that they were going to have to go out and capture all this information for the first time. So we wanted to work on helping those people that didn't necessarily have all the facilities, but we also knew that the people who had the data ready to go were the first people we could work with. And one of those great successes out the gate was Greater Wellington Regional Council. They, within a couple of weeks, turned around and gave us a whole bunch of their tracks, around 157, with amazing attribute information and great spatial data. And thanks to John Gibson for that. He was really helpful. John Gibson at Greater Wellington got all the geo database nice and ready for us, and it was basically a breeze. So getting that information was really great from them, and that doubled our website's our track tool size overnight, basically. And it also helped with working with Greater Wellington for us to get a bit more clarity on what we required from other organisations in terms of our data, and helped us realise we needed to draw up a proper agreement and actually get those things being done correctly. So yeah, these are just some of the tracks from Greater Wellington. Since we got these, I've actually done a couple, particularly in the Belmont Regional Park. If you haven't been and you live in Wellington, I really recommend it. Once we can all go back outside, of course. Yeah, a really great set of tracks. So I don't want to label this too long. I mean, I just want to point out that essentially what our setup was in the beginning was, and it still is a very basic workflow. It's not the way that we've approached this project is not revolutionary. We're trying not to reinvent the wheel, trying to do things as quickly and easily as possible, but it's not some fancy GIS that you've not seen before. Essentially, the data provider, the organization, gives us the data in the form of a spreadsheet with all the attribute information, descriptions, etc., and a geo database. And we join those two together by track name, do a bunch of other geoprocessing, getting the lengths and other bits and pieces together. And then we append that to the main data set, publish it up to AGOL, although now we're actually on Enterprise, so we're a portal service. And then that goes out via a REST service to the Silverstripe. And then the comms team comes in and does all the extra assets such as copying in that attribute information from the spreadsheet and Q&Aing and adding images. And then once they're happy, they publish the track. So yeah, not flash, not revolutionary. And it was a while of working like this where we realized actually we need to make this easier. There was really too much manual data entry going on, too much copying and pasting of information, and essentially double handling because the organization had already given us their data and they'd already manually done that. So we needed to speed things up. So one of the first things that we wanted to do was take all of the attribute information and actually just put that into the GIS to begin with, and then that would populate through to the CMS. But unfortunately, that wasn't going to work because all those fields were actually locked to 250 characters because we didn't think of this ahead of time. So I'm sure some of you are shaking your heads at the moment, but so we realized, okay, we're going to need to rebuild that area. And then we also realized that spatially, all the tracks were being locked so that by the global IDs, so that if there were any changes, if a council came to us and said, hey, we've rerouted this track so it actually goes around the hill and not over it, here's the new spatial data, we couldn't work with that because the global ID locked the record and you could only make edits to the initial vertices. You couldn't copy something else in. And so that was another area that we knew that we needed to change. So some adjustments were on the horizon. This is the CMS that we've been using. This is the Silverstripe. And so all these fields here, the activities, the sub-regions, we've also got regions as well, the description, that was all being done manually. And I'm sure we just knew that there was a better way to do this and we had to speed things up. So we started the process of improving the database and also the website. On the database side, we knew that we had to update those fields, make them, we turned them to 4,000 character length. We added a bunch more fields so that they would all map through to the CMS. Another request was that the database actually be set up for elevation profiling, which is something we hadn't done from the outset. And as any of the GIS people who are listening to this will know, if it doesn't already have any relationship to a surface, a DEM, then essentially you've got to do it again, or do all the interpolation and then put it back into the database. So we were essentially rebuilding the database from scratch at this point. We also had to replace those global IDs with unlocked, more flexible, what we call GIS IDs. And on the website side, there were a few bug fixes to change, some elastic searching, which I'm still not quite sure what that is, but I know it speeds it up. Not a web guy, sorry. And there was also that community functionality that we wanted to add, the ability to do reviews and other bits and pieces. And so just on the process of adding the elevation profile functionality, I'd worked a bit with elevation stuff in the past, but really only just a little bit at uni, and I wasn't too sure how to go about doing this. And so I actually contacted a website that I knew did it really well, and that was Trailforks. I don't know if there's any mountain bikers listening, but Trailforks is a mountain biking website that has tracks from all over the world on there, and they all have extremely nice elevation plots that are interactive. And so I actually contacted them, and they were really helpful and kind of put me in the right direction. And said that really you don't want to have a service that's an elevation service that you're running the tracks over every time you call an elevation profile on the website. You actually want to do it from a database, from wherever it's stored, make it Z-aware, and then publish it like that, so it's already got that information. Apparently that would drastically speed up load times. So that's what we did, and managed to get our hands on a an OK DEM, which I'm sure some of you have used, from Lin's, this 8-meter 2012 elevation model. Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's derived from Topo 50 contours, so it's not great, but we felt that it was okay for just the visualization side, so long as it wasn't being heavily relied on, you know. And so around this time, and just big shout out to Jonathan Ball for hooking me up with that, by the way, because it was an 18 gigabyte data set, and Lin's stops you downloading at like 4 gig or something. So he was very kind and chucked that on a hard drive for me, and I went and grabbed it. So thanks, Jonathan. But yeah, so around this time, I was also doing the really great Eagle course, Python scripting for geoprocessing, run by Kim Olivier. And I was telling him about this problem that we had and how best to go about doing it. And he was really helpful, pointing me in the right direction with interpolation and how I should do that. And he said that with any geoprocessing, you should break your data set up. And so nothing should take longer than no geoprocessing should take longer than the time it takes to make a cup of coffee. But unfortunately, I had to break that rule because interpolating all these tracks took a damn long time. So sorry, Kim. And after doing this course, it was really helpful because I hadn't done any Python before, but I was working away at some scripts and finally managed to get a script working. So I was really happy. This was to batch convert GPX files into feature classes, which was something that was really necessary because we were getting a lot of tracks being given to us in GPX form from councillors who didn't have any GIS system. And I was tearing my hair out having to do this every time, like one at a time, manually convert all of these files. So thanks, Kim. You saved me there. So yeah, cheesy photo from the making of the video for NZSEA. So the Spatial Excellence Award, we nominated ourselves last year for this project and got accepted as a nomination. And they turned around and said that we had to make a video. So none of us knew how to make any videos. So that was an extremely interesting learning process, but a lot of fun. And we went out to the Paikakiriki escarpment, and filmed a bunch of really great shots on a couple of really hot sunny days. Hopefully the team didn't want to kill me too much after I dragged them around the escarpment in the hot sun, but yeah, we managed to get some good footage, and I think it shows in the final video. So, but yeah, safe to say we needed a beer at the end of it. Now I won't show you the video because I don't want to hear myself narrating it. So I'll let Ted share that with you guys later if you feel like watching it. So at the end of our upgrade to the database and to the website, we realized that those changes were actually really helpful. They streamlined the data process from getting it from the source all the way to getting it on the website, and everything just went through the GIS at that point, which is how it should have probably been from the beginning, but we sort of had to jump through a few hoops to learn that. We got a few more partners involved, which was really great. Auckland Council, Waipa District Council, and also Grey District Council. And they gave us a whole bunch of data. And then not too long after that, Christchurch City Council jumped on board as well and gave us almost 200 tracks. So that pushed the system right up, getting some really good partners involved and getting way more tracks on the system. And at this point, we're now at around 600 tracks that have been published. And I should say as well, one of the main sort of things that we were offering when we were working with, these organizations and getting their tracks is that they have the ability to, we can give them the embed code for Find My Venture, and then they can essentially have a copy of it in their website. So they don't have their own GIS. They're able to view it in their website and anyone who's on their website can check out tracks in their area, and those are the tracks that they've given us. So we can filter it by their region or by their specific tracks that they've given us. And that's kind of what this, so this is Find My Venture. So that's what it would look like to them, minus the top heading, of course. So I can try and give you a bit of a quick demo. The internet was not working so good before with this, so I'll see how I go. But essentially, how it's set up is pretty familiar if you've been on like Airbnb or anything. You've got your map view on this side, and then you've got your search view on this side. And by default, we have a bunch of track collections, which we've kind of curated and are there ready to go for anyone who wants to check them out. So you've also got, you've got a regular search via region and sub-region, an activity type, and then you've also got a more advanced search where you can use keywords, difficulty, distance, etc. And so I'll just see how we go. Got a nice little animation there. Okay. And so, yeah, you've got your search results there. Searching still needs a little bit of work, but I think it's getting better. So then when you go onto the track detail page, just as you'd expect, you've got all your key information, difficulty, length, where it is. Obviously, it's closed at the moment. And descriptions, the types of activities you can do on it. And I mean, this is taken directly from Doc, which is great. We've got such good information. And then you've also got a track map there. And one of the things that we really want to do in the future is add start and end points. But I'm sure lots of you will know that that's not an easy task at all. So if anyone knows how to do that quickly and easily, please contact me. Photos added by users. You've also got the ability to write a review, and then there's existing reviews there as well. Feel free to check this out in your own time. This talk will be up, I think, posted by Eagle, so you can check it out and check out Find My Venture in more detail if you need. So yeah, we know that it's far from perfect, and there's still a long way to go to get all of those tracks and make it what the vision that we set out to be, which is, you know, the one-stop shop, all the tracks in the country on this website. And we're managing the general bugs. Statuses are an interesting topic because it's somewhat a little bit risky showing status fields, given that we can't guarantee how up to date they are because we require the organization whose track it is to tell us when the status changes. Hopefully in the future we could somehow automate that a little bit more. With Doc, we're hoping to automate that through use of APIs. And overall, just continuing to finesse that workflow. One of the main things that I'm trying to do is Python script the geoprocessing side so that the interpolation of the tracks, the adding the regions, the links, etc., and the joining, table joins of all that information would be scripted completely, is the plan. On the web side, we still need to get those elevation profiles up and running. The data is now there, but it's just a case of getting the time to the dev team to implement them. And a big part of this is also getting those doc tracks onto the system. So currently it's quite an ad hoc basis that we're adding doc tracks, but we're working with Doc to get their whole, I think it's around 800 or 900 tracks through their API portal onto the system. So that'd be really great. And yeah, more or less just working with as many new organizations as possible and trying to promote their beautiful walks and places that they've got in their regions so that we can make this more of a complete database. So if so far you've been listening and you've been thinking, oh yeah, my organization could be into this, or know someone who might be, get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you. And, you know, if you have data that you'd like to see on the website, we would be more than interested in talking to you and seeing what we can we can work out. So at that point, I'd just like to wrap up to say, yeah, a big thanks to everyone that's been working on this project so far. Excuse me. Our partners and our contributing organisations have been super important in getting us to where we are. And so, yeah, big thanks to those people. And that's it from me. Thanks very much, everyone, for listening. And yeah, kia ora.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that, Julian. It's a massive project you guys are taking on, but it looks like it's all going pretty well so far. And I've also got to say that's very humble of you to not want to share that video of yourself. But it's a masterpiece. It's definitely a masterpiece. And like,
yeah, I got to save myself some embarrassment, eh?
Yeah. Like you mentioned though, that the YouTube video will go out to everyone post webinar, so they can check it out in their own time. Cool. We'll
Awesome.
now move into the Q&A part of the webinar. I'll just make myself the presenter again.
Awesome.
And we'll start going through the questions that you guys have sent in during the webinar. I'll also call upon Doug Stark from Eagle to give me a hand here. So I'll start things off, Jules, with a pretty simple one. I know you're an outdoorsman yourself. Obviously the lockdown's making things a bit difficult, but how have you been keeping active, let's just locally around your own house?
Me personally? Yeah, so I've been implementing the home gym setup, as I'm sure lots of you probably have as well. Been trying not to post it too much to social media. Try not to be one of those guys, but yeah, just like a little bit of weight training on the back deck, and try not to annoy the neighbours too much, and then just getting out for the odd run and bike around the house, like sort of around Hitchman, which is where I'm based. So
it's funny you should mention running, Julian, because one of the questions from someone is in relation to the tracks is whether running could be included as an option. Now, you might by default think if you can walk a track, you can run it, but that's not always the case based on terrain. And you know, if it's a bit rocky, probably not the best one to run on. Is that something for the future?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Doug. Yeah, I think it is definitely something for the future. We don't have, yeah, like you say, like a lot of tracks that are walking tracks you would presume are running tracks, but I think there are a lot of specific ones out there just for running, or that are more geared towards runners. A website that we've had a bit of contact with is Wild Things, which I think is a running club, and they're a New Zealand-based running club, and they've got an actually really good running trails website with tracks and reviews and elevation profiles and all that stuff. So they're catered quite well to the running side of things, but I don't see why not. You know, it might be something for the future. Yeah.
Yeah, you might need to drop the walking from your organisation name.
Yeah, that's on the cards. We might become the running access commission, but I don't know. We'll see how we go.
Awesome. Here's another question here for you, Julian. Have you guys considered using the Wellington City Council open data portal that has a live service?
So I'm not 100% sure on that, because we're currently in talks with, or not in talks, but our comms team has been working with with Wellington councils as a whole to get their data directly, and I'm not sure what exactly how they're, because it's quite recent, but how they are planning to do that. But that service, definitely we would probably use that if that goes ahead. I guess the thing is, I don't know what's already on the service, so if there's information that doesn't fit our database setup, all the fields that we already have, then we're going to require extra information. But yeah, it's definitely something that we would consider.
Yeah. Okay.
You talked about lots of organisations, Julian, providing you information as you look to complete the master list of tracks in New Zealand. Can the public can a person who knows of a track provide details, and if that is okay, is there an audit process before you would put it into your database?
Yeah, so we have had actually a few individuals who have expressed that exactly that they know of a track that they walk regularly and they really love, and they know who maintains it, or it's run by a local trail community or something like that, where it's on a lot more of a small scale. And we are not picky. I mean, we are picky in the sense that we want high quality data, and we want it to be both high quality spatially and have a rich level of attribute information. But in terms of who it's coming from, we're very open to individuals, and really, if anyone does have information, we're willing to show it. But yes, there is a Q&A kind of process that we go through, and if they don't meet that, then we won't say no. We'll just say, oh, how can we help you kind of get the data to where it needs to be so that we can show it.
Fantastic.
Here's another one here for you, Julian. Great presentation. Was there a reason for using Python 2 and ArcMap as opposed to Python 3 and ArcGIS Pro?
Okay, so yeah, I haven't graduated basically. So when I learned Python with Kim, he was teaching Python 2. Oh no, he taught both. Sorry, he does teach both. But the majority of the stuff that I was doing was on Python 3. On Python 2, and it's just where I felt more confident. So I definitely need to graduate and start using PyCharm, but we definitely are using ArcGIS Pro. I know all the examples that I showed you are ArcMap, but we're on Arc Pro 2.4, and that's all of our services are run off Arc Pro now. So definitely confident in that area, but just haven't graduated from the Python 2 yet.
Yeah. That's good to know, because I was going to say maybe it's time just to move to Pro, but that's awesome that you guys are already on there.
Yeah. That's one area that we're doing right in.
Nothing like a quick product plug there from Ted. A quick one, you mentioned it briefly. Julian, you talked about the status, so whether tracks are open or closed. In the next 3 or 4 weeks, we're all going to be allowed a bit more into the wild.
Yes.
I'm guessing it's a little bit seasonal, but how accurate and how are you planning on having that as up to date as possible about a track being open or closed for whatever reason?
Yeah, you can tell in my voice that I'm not chuffed about this one. It's a really hard one because until we have a system in place that essentially the individual or the organization that's providing the data can, whenever they have a change to the status, tell us. It's never going to be completely up to date. Do you know what I mean? So how we are managing it currently is that we have a data agreement with all of the organizations that we've been getting data from so far, that if they do have status changes, they need to let us know. And the onus of there's risk involved for us, obviously, but really we do emphasize that the onus is on the data providers to let us know. And that's why we had to have all the contact information for the data providers. But something really we've been considering is just actually in the status field, just saying, please contact the track owner, or go on so say if it's a doc track, just see the doc website before you head out on this track, and do that for every single track on our system, because we don't want anyone risking themselves. Yeah, exactly, a disclaimer.
Something I
I'm not sure if
noticed
that answers the question.
Oh, sorry.
It's all good.
Yeah,
it's all good. I think it's just no one wants to travel too far or drive somewhere and then find that it's closed. But totally appreciate your ability to know exactly hour by hour what's open and what's not is nigh on impossible at the moment.
Yeah, it's a bit tricky.
Something I was going to ask you as well, Julian, that's also been sent in by someone in the audience. Are there any areas of the country that have like planned trail development soon? And in particular, does Invercargill have many tracks available that you know of?
I wonder if I know that person who asked that question. Yeah, I don't know about Invercargill, sorry. But there are lots of places around the country that have trail development coming up in the future, and in many cases we're helping out with that, or facilitating through funding and stuff. A big area that will be hopefully in the not too distant future having more trails implemented is the North Waikato region and also South Auckland. And the reason for that, the reason for that is that there are a lot of in that area we've identified that there's lots of places where like kids have to walk along roads in order to get from home to school, or just quite not so much the recreational side of tracks and trails, but even just the basic facilities so that people can get from A to B if their mode of transport isn't in a car. So yeah, North Waikato is definitely one to look out for, and I know that the government is chucking a whole heap of funding at this area to try and stimulate growth, obviously during this time, trying to get those kind of projects going. So I think we'll probably see a lot more in the near future.
Awesome. Quick one for you, another one, Julian. Some of the longer tracks, long distance trails in New Zealand, the people managing them may not have all the GIS skills that you'd hope for. So issues resourcing. Is there any way that Walking Access can, could curate and look after the data on behalf of those organisations, just to ensure its, consistency and accuracy?
Yeah, I don't know about now. I wasn't sure exactly where you're going to go with the question, so I was bracing myself to say, yes, please sign me up to fly around in a helicopter and GPS all your tracks. I will happily do it. Make my job more outdoors. But yeah, it's a resourcing issue outside because we're so small. So I think we have provision to kind of help smaller organizations in a pinch, but more systematic, wide scale, like we set up their databases, they collect the tracks. I think definitely much more resourcing is required there to make that possible. But I mean, if there are people out there who want to make it happen, I'm sure that we can make it happen. That's me just reaching for someone with lots of money, eh?
Nice. Given all the issues and sort of challenges you've encountered with all the data around the trails, do you feel like you've got the power to drive track data improvement across government?
I don't know about me personally or us as an organisation, but I definitely think that this experience has helped us open our eyes to the gaps, and also open our eyes to who's already nailing it in this area, who can we kind of work with to kind of improve our situation and make this area more efficient. One of those groups being DOC. I think Department of Conservation is doing a damn good job with their tracks and how they operate that. And so I think with working with people like DOC and anyone else who's interested, I think that we can improve this space. And yeah, I definitely think that because we've done a bit of research in other countries as well. Canada's got a really good national trails system set up, and it's at a governmental level and it's across the board. And yeah, I don't know, it might be a bit of a pipe dream, but I feel like that's something that we could definitely we could strive for. So.
Yeah. And you're probably learning more and more about the best way to set up the structure, probably day by day, with all the new data coming in, and more and more information and other like photos and elevation and all that as well.
Yeah, definitely. I really I think the most beneficial thing from this is just been the learning. Because when we started out, we kind of didn't know what we didn't know, so it's been really enjoyable in that sense. Kind of like just getting lots of new skills from this and kind of throwing ourselves in the deep end a little bit. I think it's been really rewarding. Not to sound too cheesy, but
there's a lot of positive feedback coming through, Julian. I'm not just making that up. I think it's a lot of people just desperate to be outside rather than inside. So
yeah, true.
You might see
probably
number of hits might go through the roof after this. Quick question, and you might have partially answered it earlier. What's the mechanism with councils, or what mechanism do you have with councils to make sure that the data is up to date?
Currently, it's pretty ad hoc. So I think ideally in the future, we would like to have like a portal or something where people could log in and do it themselves. But right now, we require them to pick up the phone, chuck us an email, message us, and let us know that this track has changed. So it's rudimentary.
Gotcha. Okay. A work in progress.
A work in progress. Yeah, exactly.
So something you guys may or may not have considered, Julian, at the Walking Access Commission. Are you going to register any of this trail data with the Living Atlas, make it authoritative in that sense?
No, yeah, that's a good point. I haven't spent too much time on the Living Atlas, so yeah, I'm not sure. That seems like it might be a good idea. Yeah, sorry, you're just exposing my ignorance, but yeah, if there were benefits to that, then I'm sure that would be useful.
Ted, you better be careful with those questions, or Julian won't accept another invitation to present.
Yeah, that one was from the audience. That wasn't from me.
Yeah, whatever.
I think I got one more for you, Julian. Clearly there's a desire for sort of a national consistency around the data. Have you published a data model so that you're almost creating, this is how we would like track data provided?
No, we haven't, and I think it's definitely somewhere that we would like to take this. As I think we kind of didn't really want to step on too many toes because there are so many people working in this space. I think we've kind of been trying to be kind of careful, but I think in the future, like the more people that get on board with this, I think that will give us the confidence to say, hey, and with fun adventure, and then also more at a national level, just consistency, making across the board. I think that will be really good to kind of work with the key organizations and say, hey, this is how it should be. But we have to get feedback from those other organizations as well to let us know, like, oh, we haven't thought of this, or, so I think it's, I think there's still a lot of work done to make sure that we are on the right track, no pun intended. Well, yeah, again, I guess it's just like organizations like DOC and other kind of like NZTA and organizations that kind of deal with the more infrastructure side of it, making sure that we're all good to go, basically. But yeah, I don't see why not.
Yeah, no, fantastic. I don't actually have any more questions, but before handing back to Ted, just brilliant initiative, fantastic resource, and I'm sure while exiting New Zealand might be restricted in the future, I can see people jumping on and finding where they can go walking. So walking, running, riding, whatever. So thanks for your time, and over to you, Ted.
Yep.
Awesome. Thanks, Doug.
Yeah, thanks very much for that, mate. You were definitely in the hot seat there with plenty of questions coming through. Let's just wrap up let's wrap up the Q&A for now. All you guys out there in the audience, if you think of anything else you'd like to ask us or Julian, you can just get in touch at gistraining@eagle.co.nz. You can find the recording of this webinar at that go-to stage address there, and you can also register for the upcoming series of webinars on our website at that top link there. And these will all be sent out post webinar too. So yeah, once again, Julian, a massive thanks for presenting today and giving up your time. These conferences are a collaboration between the New Zealand Esri user group and the partners, Eagle Technology, GBS, and Alterra. And the user group would also like to say a massive thanks to our RUC/VUC 2020 sponsors, National Map, GeoWorks, Jacob, and First Name. So thank you all very much for your time today, especially you, Doug, Julian, and Matt, who's on the line as well. Stay safe, everyone. We look forward to seeing you back here next week on the Tuesday, the 21st of April at 11 a.m. And we look forward to catching up with you face-to-face as soon as we can. Thanks very much, guys. Have a good day.